The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewing, and today we're going to be talking about the habit of I'm not where I want to be. You see, this is a word that I hear so often when it comes to working with clients, even in the middle of sessions, coaching sessions where I work with people. But if you're listening to this episode today, I want to preface this for you, that this episode is for you if you're someone who says, hey, I have a long ways to go, I'm not where I want to be. Someone who kind of discredits themselves based off of, where they're at. I got such a long ways to go. I have so much, more that I got to do. And so the reason why I thought this would be a powerful episode is because I can't tell you how many times I get into conversations. I get into coaching sessions where people will use this, but they use it in almost a way to give them an out. They use this in a way to make themselves feel better for where they're at. But I want to ask you a question today. Have you ever said, I'm not where I want to be? Have you ever said, I have so much more to go, or I have so much more I have to do? But this is a common statement that we make as people who are striving to be more, striving to do more. And as this came up in one of my coaching sessions last week, this was a gentleman that I've been coaching for about 4 weeks, and he's continued to say, hey, we've came a long ways. I work with him and his wife, but he's like, we came a long ways, but we have a long ways to go. We're not where we want to be. And I kind of stopped him for a second. I said, well, what would it look like, or what would it take for you to be where you want to be? And so I really started to challenge him and show him, hey, this is a great story you continue to come up with, but one of the problems with this story is it may actually be keeping you stuck inside of your marriage. It may be keeping you stuck inside of your business, and you may not even know it. But what I find is this is a common statement that people make inside of their physical health. And I think about, even my years as a personal trainer, when people would lose, say they were, 40 or 50 pounds overweight, they'd lose 10, 15, 20 pounds, and they'd be really successful. And one of the statements they'd say is, hey, you look great. You'd compliment them, and they're like, oh, thank you, but I got a long ways to go. And then there'd be other times where it's like, hey, how much weight have you lost? And it's like, well, I've lost 20 pounds, but I'm not where I want to be. And so they would say these statements. And one of the things that I would see happen is they couldn't break through past that initial, change, that initial weight loss. Even inside of training, it's like, hey, how much did you lift? And it's like, well, I got a long ways to go to do this. But I see people doing this inside of even their marriage, where, for this couple, it's like, hey, how are things going for you guys? Like, hey, they're great, but we got a long ways to go. Or, hey, we had great conversation this week, but we're not where we want to be. I see this in relationships with God. I see people, say that, hey, I'm a Christian or I'm this, but I got a long ways to go. I go to church, I do this, but I'm not where I want to be. And then we even tie this into, business. How's your marketing? Hey, my marketing is much better, but it's not where I want it to be. It's not where it needs to be. We see this inside of, maybe sales, customers, or even employees. Even when people think about their business in the terms of, hey, how's your business? It's like, oh, it's good, but it's just not where I want it to be. But I can't think of a better way to keep yourself stuck than to use this language. See, imagine if you asked yourself just one question. Imagine if you asked yourself one question immediately after you made this statement of, I'm not where I want to be, or I have a long ways to go. What would it take for you to not have a long ways to go? What would it take for you to be where you want to be? See, these are the questions that we start to ask ourselves that really get us to reframe where we are at. And so as I walked this gentleman through this, and I said, listen, I get it, man. You feel like you got a long ways to go, or you feel like you're not where you want to be, but where exactly do you want to be? So let's work on defining where you want to be, because here's the thing that you got to understand. If I state, hey, I'm not where I want to be inside of my health, my weight loss, my fitness, what I'm really saying is I'm lacking something. I'm lacking something inside of my weight. I'm lacking something inside of my fitness. I'm lacking something inside of my marriage. I'm lacking something inside of my relationship with God. I'm lacking something inside of my business. And more lack does not create lack. Like you cannot create abundance. Let me rephrase this. You cannot create more from lack. And so if I'm lacking something inside of physical health, my marriage, my relationships with God, my business, even inside of my mindset, because this is a big mindset shift if you're someone who says this, but you cannot create from lack. The only thing that you will end up creating, you cannot create more from lack, but the only thing that you will end up creating from lack is more lack. So understand this, that going into this and saying this keeps you stuck in that same exact place. So you'll constantly catch yourself saying, well, listen, I'm not where I want to be in my physical health. Well, maybe the problem is you haven't defined where you want to be in your physical health. You haven't defined where you want to be in your marriage. And I think of a couple areas inside of business. Maybe it's my pocketbook, and I catch myself constantly saying, well, hey, I'm not making the money I want to make. Well, no kidding, because you keep saying that. I'm not where I want to be in my marriage. Well, no kidding, you're not there, because you keep stating you're not where you want to be. But imagine if we begin to reframe that question, and the minute we catch ourselves, I've said this before too, and I actually had a big problem with it. One of the reasons why is I'm like, why do I keep saying this? And then I'm like, well, where do I want to be? And so instead of going with, I'm not where I want to be in my health, I'm not where I want to be in my marriage, I could just simply state, hey, here's where I'm going and here's where I'm at today, and leave it at that. And because think about this, is if I continue to state that I'm lacking something, it's going to keep me stuck exactly where I am. But if I simply state, hey, here's where I'm going and here's where I am today, then that gives me a sense of direction. No different than looking at a map and saying, well, here I am today, and here's where I'm going. Because no one ever says on a trip, hey, I'm not where I want to be. Because if they're saying that, if you were on a roadmap and you say, hey, I'm not where I want to be, that's really stating that you're off track or you're somewhere, obviously you don't want to be. But if I say, hey, listen, I'm about halfway to our destination, and this is where I'm going. Looking at where I'm at today, this is when I'm going to get there. This is, if I continue down the same path, I'm going to, be here. And so what would it take to be where I want to be begins to solve the number one problem. The number one problem is, we haven't really measured where we want to be. And so we end up saying that as a way to get us out. We end up saying that as a way to make it okay to not be where we want to be. But here's the real question is start asking yourself, where do I want to be in my physical health? And where do I want to be in my weight, my fitness, my nutrition, all of these things? Where do I want to be inside of my spiritual health? Where do I want to be in my relationship with God? Where do I want to be in my marriage, whether it be inside of communication, sex, intimacy, all of these places? Where do I want to be inside of my business as a leader? Where do I want to be inside of my marketing, my sales, my systems with my clients, my employees? All of these things begin to open up a new problem and a way that we can begin to work through this problem and start solving it. Because the minute I can solve this problem is the minute that I can begin to work in a completely different way. Where do I want to be inside of my, mental health? Where do I want to be inside of my mindset? Because just repeating the same thing over and over, hey, I'm not where I want to be, is keeping me stuck and keeping me from being able to see where I'm actually going. And so if you're listening to this today, I want you to think about a time in your life, or maybe even right now. I'm guessing right now, if you're not where you want to be inside of your health, maybe it's inside of your marriage, maybe it's in a place inside of your business. If you're not where you want to be, it's probably because the language that you speak. But where in your life are you using this language and it's keeping you from getting what you actually want? It's keeping you from having the marriage that you actually want. It's keeping you from having the sex life in your marriage you actually want. It's keeping you from the financial abundance that you actually want inside of your business. It's keeping you from jumping over that hoop or that final, 10 pounds, 15 pounds inside of your physical health. Maybe it's even keeping you from, your relationship with God. But whatever that is, but stop using, I'm not where I want to be. Stop using, I have so much farther to go. Because these are words that'll keep you stuck. These are words that will keep you in this place. And just learn to reframe this. Well, hey, if you catch yourself saying, I'm not where I want to be, well, what would it take for you to be where you want to be? Because that is the real question that you got to answer today. So I want to thank you guys for being here. If you're looking to join my group of entrepreneurs, business owners on Facebook, I'd love to have you in there. We'll be dropping daily tips, adding value, and helping you any way we can. We obviously work through things like this, but just a place to get value, a place to talk about habits, a place to talk about hacks. This is the group for you. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group, and I would love to have you guys in there. Message me if you have questions, comments, or concerns. Feel free to reach out to me, jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing.